Good morning. So I want to talk a little bit about luck in Dark Age of Man. Those who listen to the recap back will hear I refer a lot to the fact that they made a lot of luck checks, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First would be the rule, the attribute luck, which I have here. Add this value to all dice rolls concerning chance more than skill or ability, including gambling. So there's a couple of reasons why luck, right? Chance, just sheer luck. But the other big one is how players describe or narrate their character's actions or what they're doing, okay? Also, depending on how they've set their character up. So a great example, Katie says she's a 15-year-old ward who's sickly. And she implies she's never really left the manse. She's never really been in the world. She plays like she's naive, right? She's role-playing her character. Therefore, if she doesn't allude in her description or narration to an action or a thing or a thought or something that cues me that this is mind, spirit, body, prestige, there's no hard and fast rule, right? Clearly, it's obvious when something is a physical task, or if something is more of a mental IQ check, or a spiritual gutsy check, or right. But how the player plays imparts a lot to whether how they describe or narrate action imparts a lot to me, whether they're just going for it, whether they're risking everything to chance. So it's not so much that luck has to be used as much as I did in our session Saturday. It is very much dependent on their abilities, how they describe what they're doing and what they're using, how they describe or give orders. I very often take their descriptions as thoughts, right? So we try to play first person. So when somebody says, this is what I'd like to do, or this is what I'm thinking this is literally the character in their head. So we don't break the kind of pace of the game. And then I can take that thought or that question as a thought. The player's thinking, can I do this? Can I, right? I try to keep it live. I try to turn it into, if the player breaks character to ask me a question, I treat it as internal dialogue of their character. That's just how I GM. I tend to think, let's not step out of this. Let's just treat this as a thought the character's having, right? So especially when we're kind of in a first-person play, right? Okay. So the question, right? Wow, a lot of luck checks in Saturday's game. Correct. Lots of luck checks in Saturday's game because of the situations they're in, or how they describe or define what they're doing and how they're doing it, where they're drawing it from. You know, when somebody says I pick up a stick and a rock and some kindling and I start making a fire, it's not a luck check. They make a fire, right? So they're going to have some say when Wilcox dives in, wades out, dives in, and swims out and grabs Connor to swim back, right? He literally tells me how he hooks him around the shoulders and, and it's pushing with his legs and his other arm. He's got some control of his upper body, keeping his head above water. And when he narrates that kind of detail, it's a simple body check because he's fighting a flooded river. He's carrying another body. But outside of that, and then I think I added luck to his body check for that because he so well defined it. But then he's ultimately, facing some chance here. So it is our catch-all. It is the thing we can use when we just don't know, and it's really a tool almost more for the GM, right? It's that moment where all of us do this. All of us old school guys will go, you know what? I don't know. Pick up a D6. If you roll odd, yes, there's a torch here. If you roll even, there's no torch here. That way, we're not taking too much fiat, right? We're leaving it to chance. Is there a torch in the sconce on the wall, right? And so I like to play that way. I prefer not to just say, yes, there's a torch, or no, there isn't a torch, right? So luck is also how we give the players an ability to impact that GM fiat, right? So if somebody puts a lot of points in luck, and there's going to be that moment where the GM says, the goal is at the end of our chronicles, at the end of our campaigns, and we all sit around and we discuss how Joe became the Lord of Dredgewater. and we all reminisce about he was the luckiest player in the history of our sessions, right? And it turns out he put 4 points in luck, and when it came up, he always seemed to have luck on his side. It's a story we tell all the time, right? Was Indiana Jones good, or was he lucky, right? Was he right? So I do believe there's a lot to that, and so it's a huge part of our game, because we're also dealing with the Dark Ages, where human beings had to be skilled enough just to survive, right? There wasn't the convenience store for a soda pop and a bag of chips that somebody else manufactured, somebody else went to the trouble to invent, somebody else went to the trouble of distributing. No, you had to, if you wanted to eat, there were things you had to do, and if you wanted, so we assume certain skills in old school D&D, and certainly in our game to some degree. So we use attributes to inform what those actions would call upon: mind, spirit, prestige, luck. But you will notice they made lots of luck checks, and much of that was their definition of their characters, how they played their characters, what they told me where their characters come from. 15-year-old girl who's been living in a very isolated world, sickly and weak. We have Martin, who tells me he's been a slave, and he's been with Mort for the last 4 months, and he doesn't tell me. I mean, he defines it. He's just running through this labyrinth of dungeons, and then he starts digging a hole, and starts pulling out a block to get to a hole. So how he described that pretty much decided there would be a block, but a luck check to determine whether there was actually a tunnel there. Then the luck check was, what direction is this tunnel taking him, right? Instead of me, again, I'm naive narrator, I'm not supposed to know where he's going, right? I'm not supposed to already decide. I have a bog hag in my pocket. I know the bog hag, according to our rules, has to be in the bogs, the swamps, floods, pools, rivers, lakes, but I don't know where he's headed, right? And if he happens to get that luck check right, I'm going to send him east. I'm going to send him away from the bog hag, right? So that's why luck, that's how we use it, and that's why so many, you'll hear me refer to it a lot in my recap from the other night, and and so much depending on how they describe their character, right? Somebody tells me my character's 27 years old, I've got prestige of 3, I'm a warrior, man-at-arms, I've got 90 acres, but I owe my king 6 years service for those 90 acres. And I'm a man of the world, I've been around, and they define all of that. There's going to be more mind, spirit, prestige call-ups probably. When the player does just leave things to luck, it's going to be called upon. So they have to, how they describe it directs what we're doing. And then of course it's a tool for the GM when the fiat comes. I don't know if there's a torch here. Let's see. All right. Okay, I don't know whether you can make this jump. You described it that you were just going to run and leap. So I'm probably going to use body for your physical attributes, but then I might add your luck score to that. So it'll depend, or I'll lower the difficulty, etc. But I wanted to talk a little bit about luck in our game and why it seemed to be so pervasive in Saturday night's session. That is why. Thank you for watching. Good day.